Other people only saw it as a simple spoon, but in my eyes, it looked like the key to hell. I started rubbing the spoon with a shoehorn with all my strength. After that, I asked the warden for a new spoon and even a crown. The others only looked at the moon and turned away from the warden. On the surface, it looked like I only had one spoon, but if you looked closely, it was actually two. When I returned to my prison cell, I first prepared a piece of wood, stacked up some matches, and made a simple row. Then I forced the spoon into two parts and scraped the wood into powder with a nail file. After that, I got an aluminum stick. Carefully, I applied it to the joint between the spoon and the nail file. Finally, I replaced the match, fusing the two together perfectly. In this way, my simple escape tool was born. To test its power, I immediately moved a trunk and began digging the ventilation port little by little with my tool. The efficiency was much higher than before, so I dug the wall every night and secretly threw away the remains from my pocket during the day. Before long, the ventilation port became large enough for a person to pass through. But then a new problem appeared. The metal mesh was welded to the iron and couldn't be removed, so I stole another mesh in the middle of my work. During inspection, an alarm went off. Calmly, I handed the mesh to the supervisor and explained that I wanted to use it to hang clothes in my room. It seemed like a reasonable request, but the kind supervisor refused immediately. However, I wasn't worried. When I turned the screw of my shoe in my cell, another mesh was hidden inside. The earlier excuse had only been a lie. I inserted the hidden mesh into the welded one and succeeded in removing it at once. Next, I wet old newspapers, molded them into the shape of the ventilation port, painted them the same color as the wall, and created a fake cover. Using the same trick, I also made a dummy head, painting it so it looked real. I placed the dummy's head on my bed, pulled a blanket over it, and made it seem like I was already asleep. Then I removed the metal mesh and crawled into the ventilation duct through the hole I had dug earlier, replacing the mesh so the supervisor wouldn't notice. Behind the prison was a narrow ventilation duct. I climbed up along the piping. At that moment, the supervisor on patrol saw the dummy's head on the bed. Luckily, he didn't realize the trick. By then, I had already passed through the duct and reached the roof. But unexpectedly, there was no way down. The only exit was a security net, 3 meters above the ground. My height wasn't enough to reach it. Just then, the supervisor on patrol returned and glanced at my cell, where the dummy still appeared to be sleeping. He asked the guard next to him about the situation. While they were talking, the supervisor accidentally dropped his flashlight. When he bent down to pick it up, my sleeping figure didn't react as usual. Suspicious, the supervisor carefully reached out to check.